Hello, John L. Colbert Junior High Interview Committee. My name is Takuma Williams. I'm an assistant principal at Bentonville West High School. Thank you for this opportunity. So I'd like to start by answering question one about instructional leadership. I think that instructional leadership starts with a collaborative culture. That is the most important thing. That is the foundation. But I've been blessed to be in a couple of buildings that have been really good at that. And I think the key to that is not just putting it in the mission statement, but actually putting the work in to develop that. One of the ways of doing that, we did something called standout training. It's a book and then a workbook where you can get your staff to learn about their traits and their personalities, and then it breaks your personalities down from your strongest to your weakest. They're not always right, but one thing it does do is, what it is on point. It really helps you to understand the people you're working with, and for example, I was equalizer, so understanding that means I'm very concrete, sequential. Right is right, wrong is wrong. It really helped people to be patient with me, and also for me to learn how to communicate with people and recognize those things in myself. So it really was a breakthrough in our PLC work, and it was a great foundation. So it has to start with that kind of work. Also in our PLCs, we got to make sure that that we have professionalism, inclusivity, and consistency. And consistency is the most important thing, and inspecting what we expect, and then people across the building, PLCs across the building, doing the same things, and that is an emphasis on data and a focus on data. And my job is to try to get that data into teachers' hands in the most efficient and effective way, so that they can focus on those kids and remediating those kids and working with those kids in the classroom. So some of the ways that we've remediated, we've done a broad spectrum. So like, for example, on a math test, taking a look at one question and all of the students across the entire subject area. Another way, of course, would be to, look at, pinpoint specific parts of the question, different concepts, and find those subject experts in those areas that are teachers, and set up flexes and seminars based on those subject experts and those kids who need that the most. It's more targeted. Can't always do it. Don't always have the time to do it, but you want to try to use the most effective method with the time and the resources that you have. But most importantly, I think and what's brought us success is celebration. In our building here at the West, we have banners up around the building talking about students who have AP scholars, kids who have gotten scholarships, kids who are going to military service, all the different colleges that the kids have gone to. And then the teachers, celebrating the teachers and the things that they've done to work with those kids to reach those goals. And then you have to find your teachers have to be balanced, and have a good work-life balance, because they have to be able to fill their batteries up. It's something that I have learned from both of the past two leaders I've had. Like I said, I've been blessed. They were, put teachers first, and if there was a need at home, a family need, we made it work. We put in substitutes in classrooms. We figured out ways to make it work, and I think that is so important. If teachers know that you care about them, and they can get home and fill their batteries up with their families and friends, then they're going to come back here and they're going to give their best, for your kids. So all of that is what I'm doing as an instructional leader to build that culture. With respect to question two in relationship building, both inside and outside the building, I think the key outside of the building is a strong relationship and bond with your PTO. That can look different depending on where you're at. I was in a previous district that was a high poverty district, and what that looked like there was, Mrs. Miller, who had four kids, come to our building, showing up at our PD to feed our teachers. Here we have a little bit of a higher presence. And so, what that looks like here is partnering with the PTO and making them a part of your leadership decisions that you're making through the ACCET plan, which I've done in my building for several years. And then, using their resources with the community. They have an ear to the things that are going on out there. And so, using that is so essential. I am so enthralled at the relationships that John L. Colbert Middle School has built through their pathways, and all the speakers that come in, and all the businesses that you've partnered with. They got my creative juices flowing, and I know it's probably something that's happening already. But I just imagined having an event where you're bringing those partners in and you're celebrating them. You're having kids do things that they're doing in those tracks, and then you're inviting in new possible partners, business partners, and speakers, and then members of the community, and doing kind of a fundraising event and turning it into that event for PTO, and it's something that as a board member for Single Parent Scholarship Fund, that I see as a huge benefit for shining light on some of the things you're doing for your students in the community, and also for building those and strengthening those relationships with those partners when you're celebrating them. So I also think it's important to have an emphasis on the budget. And being here at the high school level, I've learned that sometimes budgets, departments fall short. They need help, and so as a principal, you can adjust and move money around within your building. And so learning that process and knowing how to support those teachers has helped to build those relationships with those teachers and build that trust with them. And I think a further building of that trust is, understanding that, at the end of the year, you're going to do a survey. You're going to figure out what those emphases are that teachers, should be focusing on, and what they think is important. And then, next year, you're laser focused on what that is, and all funds are going towards that. I think that is a key to using money in the right way, is, making it a part of your mission and your vision, and making sure that teachers have buy-in on that early on process, and also making sure they have professional development, and ongoing professional development, if that's a strategy that you're using, within your building. And even if you don't have the funds to do it, something building wide, like sending all, teachers to a training or PD, then you can, do it in a rotation, having ELA go one time, to PLC at work one year, and then next year math department goes. So finally, I think that building a relationship with kids is important to me. And I think, one of the things that I've heard all my career is, "Oh, you're too nice to kids." And to that, I say, yes, I am. My goal is to do everything I can to make that kid feel whole, even when there are consequences. And so that is going to be an emphasis with my staff, is to ensure that they understand that. If they, aren't quite there, I'm going to get them the professional development so that they do have an understanding of it, because that building that relationship, creates a great environment in your building, and you can have a lot more fun and get a lot more accomplished that way. So, with respect to scenario 1 in question 3, I'm looking at that band at the top with ELA. Where the students at the higher levels, 3 and 4, showed higher growth, but the scores on the lower level, 1 and 2, showed lower growth. So my first question is, what are my colleagues doing right now? I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So, what are they doing in their buildings for remediation for those lower kids? And what strategies have they implemented? What are my specialists doing within the buildings around me with their seminars or flex sessions, and how are they creating targeted sessions for kids in that way? Are we using a system within the classroom? We use ExactPath for those moments where students have downtime. Is that kind of thing going on with those ELA students? We need an efficient way to identify with data. And so, I need to know what tool that is and how can I get that into teachers' hands efficiently and effectively. And that, takes that structure and aligned PLC, which is something that, is built within that culture that I've spoken of already. Secondly, I'm looking at that bottom line with science, and what are those science teachers doing to grow their lower performing students? So, my school, for example, is using biology interims. So, that collaborative culture, if you've built that, those English teachers are connecting with those biology teachers, and maybe they're doing those same type of interim things for their students as well. When looking at scenario 2, for those ELA level 1 students, I'm looking in an unconventional way first. First, I'm asking, what are we doing with classroom management? What are we doing with student engagement? Have we, how is our 504 and IEP process? Is that aligned? Are we doing the right things there? I'm taking a look at that. We don't want to neglect that when we're just looking at academic data. So I'm making sure I'm doing that first. And I also think we need to create maybe a school-wide remediation program for reading, or intervention program for reading. So that could be short constructed responses in social studies, in math, and you don't want those teachers to have to deal with that data. So a program that we've used before in the past, Newsela. It is something that that I did with my PE department, and so they just set this program out for kids. They read the articles, they did the responses, and it created immediate data that the teacher got back. And so then those math and English teachers can take that data and use it for what they need to use it for. It doesn't make common sense for a PE teacher, like a theater teacher, to be looking at and extrapolating that data. In math, we need to be getting better at classroom rigor. So, I'm talking to my specialists. I'm working one-on-one with them to make sure that we're doing the right things with the curriculum, and that rigor is at that higher level. I'm sending my teachers to PD. Maybe they need to learn a little bit more about how to use rigor and relevance in the classroom. So another important thing to focus on is AP. And what are we doing to encourage kids, that are at that higher level, but maybe just afraid to try AP, getting them involved. There's several programs that our district has used to come in and find those kids in the data, and then to get those kids encouraged, through assemblies and things like that, to get them into AP and to trying AP. We got to make sure that we're looking across the board at all of those things, and not just at the straight data.